Tucker Carlson is in big trouble. He thought it would be a good idea to interview Vladimir Putin, who is the president of Russia.
Here's what the Biden administration had to say about Tucker interviewing Putin.
Tucker Carlson's interview with Vladimir Putin, I guess that was today. I read that Putin went on for a half hour. The first question, he just gave him a history lesson, an erroneous.
It's reprehensible.
That he would even do it? Well, I mean, we interviewers have done it. I mean, I remember Mike Wallace with the Ayatollah.
Of course, but under the kind of rules of engagement that interview was conducted, and with a certain acquiescing lens through which Tucker put the answers.
Right. I mean, Tucker has already been part of Putin's propaganda apparatus for a few years now.
Yeah.
It would have been like if Mike Wallace had been on in Iran for 3 years.
Right.
Hey, I mean, that's the difference.
Yes, Chris Wallace has a fair show on CNN, has the gall to criticize Tucker Carlson. According to this tweet, Chris Wallace says Tucker Carlson acted like a puppy during his interview with Putin and claims calling him a useful idiot would be unfair to useful idiot. Just the same word like Hillary Clinton. Grigolfi saw this and was not happy. He fired back immediately. While Tucker was imploring Putin to release and imprison American journalist, Chris Wallace was doing heroic work for interviewing comic George Lopez. When I saw this, it was just amazing. At the beginning of this clip, you have seen how the White House is responding to this. I have a couple of videos to play. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please endeavor to do that. And if possible, share this video.
Here's what the Biden administration had to say about Tucker interviewing Putin.
Do you have any concern that Tucker Carlson's interview with Vladimir Putin could further erode support for Ukraine aid in the United States?
We're convinced that there is strong bipartisan support on Capitol Hill for supporting Ukraine.
Let me interrupt real quick, then I'll play the rest of the video. That comment about having support for Ukraine on Capitol Hill is exactly what's wrong with this country. You might have the support of the politicians, but we the people are done funding another country's conflict.
And we know there's efforts now to bring something up onto the Senate floor for a vote that would have Ukraine, Israel, Indo-Pacific, and humanitarian assistance, so supplemental funding in it, and without the border. We'll let senators work that out. The president believes that support for Ukraine is critical, particularly right now, as Russia continues to try to hit their defense industrial base, continue to hit their units on that battlefront from east to south. It's vital, and he's confident that, and based on the meetings he's had with leaders on Capitol Hill and the discussions he's had, certainly over recent weeks, that again the leadership, even on the House side, the leadership is solidly in support of supporting Ukraine. Now, how they're going to be affected or impacted by a television interview, I couldn't begin to guess.
I guess I'm asking beyond just Congress, among the American people, many of whom, watch Tucker Carlson's show and are inclined already to be skeptical of American support for Ukraine. Would hearing directly from Putin potentially erode that further, not just in the halls of Congress, but among the people?
The American people know well who's at fault here, and I think they know that there was no grounds whatsoever for the invasion on February 22nd, 2 years ago. He invaded a neighboring country without provocation. Ukraine wasn't a threat to anybody, and the American people understand that. And the American people understand what Ukraine's fighting for. And all they're asking for is our help. They're not asking for American boots on the ground. Again, I don't think the American people are going to be swayed by one single interview. And I think anybody that watches that interview, again, I haven't seen whatever's said, need to make sure remember you're listening to Vladimir Putin, and you shouldn't take at face value anything he has to say.
We're sick of our money going overseas. We don't care who's at fault. We've given Ukraine plenty of money, weapons, and other aid. And it's time for us to put America first. We don't care who got invaded or whose fault it is. What we're worried about is our country. Fixing our southern border, lowering inflation, fixing the crime epidemic that's plaguing our great nation. But yet the Biden administration and the Democrats continue to try and push for more funding for Ukraine. We have our own problems in this country that we need to fix. And it's time we start electing officials that put America first. But let me know what you think about what John Kirby had to say in the comments. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, something bothers me a lot, particularly to this Tucker Putin interview. The White House said something like, don't believe whatever thing is coming out from Putin's mouth. Whatever thing he says is a lie. I don't get the point. How can you draw conclusions like this? It is insane, right? Before you conclude on something, it is good to get the story from both sides. The person should tell you his own side. This person should say, before you can draw conclusions. Throughout, for 2 years, we have been getting one-sided story. Now, the one to get the other person, it was a problem. Chris Wallace being so jealous, went off on Tucker Carlson, and I'm glad there are still people on Fox News that can defend Tucker Carlson. It is insane. Chris Wallace, if you calculate the number of views he has gotten since that show on CNN, just Tucker one interview, summarized everything. He's not even able to meet up. Then you should know why the mainstream media is freaking out. They wanted to be the one, I'm the one to interview Putin. At the end of the day, it is impossible.
Tucker Carlson showed up in Moscow this week to interview Vladimir Putin. It turned out to be anything but an interview. Putin droned on for 2 hours and 7 minutes, while Tucker sat there like an eager puppy. Occasionally, but rarely, he got in a question, like this one about the power of the deep state in Washington. What Tucker asked is what he didn't ask. Nothing about why Putin invaded a sovereign country. Nothing about targeting civilians. Nothing about Russian war crimes. A reporter can ask Putin a tough question if he wants a real interview. But apparently, that's not why Tucker went to Moscow. During the Cold War, gullible Westerners who spread Soviet propaganda were dismissed as useful idiots. But calling Tucker that is unfair to useful idiots. No, he's made a cynical decision to chase MAGA's affection for dictators. And what better way to cash in than Putin's Kremlin?
Yes, I don't know if this is jealousy or what exactly. According to this article recently published by the Gateway Pundit, CNN Chris Wallace tried to criticize Tucker Carlson's interview of Putin and get knocked by Greg on Twitter. According to the article, Chris Wallace, who left Fox News to be a failure on CNN, thought he was being clever and sneaky by criticizing Tucker Carlson's interview of Putin last week. Tucker's interview has probably been viewed more times in a matter of days than Wallace's CNN show has been watched since launching, but that point seems lost on the CNN host. Wallace has always thought of himself as the smartest guy in the room, despite evidence of the